Good morning and welcome to this episode, the third episode, the difficult third album of the Velvet Revolution. And my name is Ben Rice. And good morning, Dave Noble. How are you?
Hey, I love that. The third album. It's the curse, isn't it, historically?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm all right to answer your question. I'm feeling really, really happy. How are you? You all right?
yeah, yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted. I have nothing left.
Oh
Um,
no.
but we'll see what happens.
Um,
I, yeah, I've gone.
no, do we need some I think you was about to go into it. Go on, you continue. What why? Why are you
Why am I
tired?
exhausted? Just life and work at the moment. Just seem to be giving my all to that and to the human beings I work with, which is okay, but it doesn't leave much for me. And yeah, I find these episodes restorative and
Mm,
positive, and yeah. So yeah, there is a element of exhaustion, but I'll be okay. I think
good.
I'll pull through.
I'm gonna give you a virtual hug.
Very much appreciated.
This is a virtual hug. This is cathartism.
Yeah, yeah.
Cathartism. Is that a word? Cathartic.
Catharsism. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
You are a head of a school, and
Yeah.
I'm a mere uh not. So so you're the one that can I admire the way you use your words in a you're so much more pronounced, better. You're good with words, man. You come out with some nice words.
Thanks. It's something I remember we've had this conversation before actually about how it's taken me years to be confident with words because I was very dyslexic without knowing it at school. Like
Mm,
I write my letters back to front, I write in capitals. I was always thinking I was a little bit stupid at school. And I think it's really interesting how both of us have found our voices
mm.
and that narrative, how that narrative has grown, the journey of confidence in our own voices. And I think
Yeah,
it's taken me a long, long time
has
to
it?
actually work out, yeah, that I don't mind words and I
Yeah,
have a voice and I'm quite okay with using it. But it
yeah.
took a while. It took a while.
Oh man, I salute you. High five to that. Yeah, as it has been for me. It's been
Mm,
a process of exploration. Um, what a wonderful thing, and that's for everyone. You know, that's for everyone. If you feel like you haven't got a voice, do all you can in this lifetime to find it because it's bloody worth it.
yeah,
Um, okay. Well, look, let's get into. We're on letter C today,
we are. We're on the seas.
right?
No sea
And
bombs today.
yeah, no, I've had it. I said to you, don't have a look.
Okay.
Right. So since we recorded the last one, I'm like, do not have a peek. Because we share the list.
Yeah,
And have you peeked?
I haven't peaked,
Right,
but it
okay.
is on my screen now,
All right, all right. Well, look.
and it has
So,
been for the past 5 minutes. So I've seen
okay.
about five of them.
All right. So it's a long list.
It
There's a
is.
lot of C's, right? So have a little browse, see what jumps out, and you're gonna pick one, right? And I'm gonna witter on so that we don't have any dead air because the last one, last week there was like a ghostly silence whilst I was deliberating over what B to choose.
Right, there is
Um,
tons of seas.
there's a lot, yeah. Um, there is a lot. There's probably more. There's going to be more, and I keep saying it. Like, if anyone wants to throw in stuff as we go, this is going to take probably about the next 50 years anyway. So we're gonna whether we're gonna still be able to do this, we might have to hand it over to someone else to actually carry on this. Maybe your son can do it.
Yeah, yeah, he'll find his voice in about 20 years.
Yeah, but there's loads, and I think we're gonna go through alphabetically and then do another lap if just even if it's just us doing it. I'm happy about that.
I'm torn. I'm torn. I've got calms coming out to me,
Mm.
because I feel like
You're not.
I'm not, but pretend I am. And everyone, that's how everyone, like, yeah, he's calm, he's fine, while underneath the legs are flapping. Uh, and then where was the other one? And the other one I've got is compassion.
Oh.
And I'm wondering whether compassion is the one because, like I said, I feel like I'm in that space at the moment where compassion is something I need to have for myself,
Mm.
but I'm also conscious that I use this compassion as an excuse to say, yeah, it's okay to stay on the sofa and watch another box set and eat more ice cream and pizza. So let's go compassion and see where we get to
Okay.
compassion.
Lovely. All right. Wicked. I mean, they could both be interlinked anyway.
Yeah.
Dovetail, because you know, compassion. Whenever I've got compassion, there is a calmness to that,
Mm-hmm.
and when I feel calm, there's a compassion to that as well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think being calm is very compassionate to oneself, and being calm with other people is showing compassion. Anyway, let's stick with compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to hop on first?
Yeah.
Get into it. I'm going to ask you because you asked me this on the first one, I think. Ben, when was the last time you was compassionate? And we'll start with yourself. When was the last time you was compassionate towards yourself?
So I guess I kind of alluded to that when I said the word. But yeah, I feel like at the moment, and this is the space I'm in at the moment where it's been a really long, dark winter, and I know we're hitting spring in a bit, 7 days, or is it the 20th? Is it the
I,
official
I
first day
thought
of spring?
I thought we was already in it. I mean, where I am, we're already in spring.
Yeah, I mean it's springing, it's starting, but I think it's the official day is the 20th of March.
Okay.
So keep on feeling like I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm waiting for this light to arrive, and suddenly I'm going to be transformed, which is something I think I've always felt in my life. Like I'm always going to, if I buy this thing, if I buy this book, it's going to tell me how to live my life properly. If I just do this one thing,
Mm.
and it's that idea. If I start, it's always got to be a Monday. If I start on Monday, and everything's going to be right. I'm going to change my life. It's all got this dramatic everything at once. I'm going to eat properly. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to journal. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do all the things that I know are good for me. And normally by the Wednesday, I'm done because there's never enough minutes in the day to do all these things. And I think the season I've been in at the moment, I just feel like I've definitely had a couple of bugs, and they've been quite debilitating. Whether they're COVID or not, I don't know, but I
Mm.
do think there's COVID going around, and it's difficult. I guess at the moment I am struggling to work out the difference between compassion and laziness because
What?
because part of me feels really lazy. Part of me feels like I'm not doing the work and not doing anything because I am sitting a lot. And I hear people say, no, be kind, be compassionate to yourself. You are working a really tough job. There's lots
Mm-hmm.
going on. There is a lot of darkness in the world at the moment, not
Mm-hmm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
metaphorically and light. And I guess part of me just feels like I've stopped. It's like I've been hibernating and I can't stop hibernating.
Mm.
So whether that's compassion to myself or whether it's me just like, I'm going to use this compassion as an excuse for not doing the things I need to do. Um,
Mm. Interesting.
yeah, so that's why compassion struck me at the moment because I hear it a lot, and I have heard it for the past year. It's been a sort of big shift in the past year and a half
Yeah.
for me. My life. Yeah, some things happened, and it caused me to reassess. And I worked really hard for maybe 6 months on trying to change things, and then I hit a point where it's like it was too much, and then I had to sit, and I had to
Mhm.
stop, and everyone says, that it's, you just got to wait for the next point, and be compassionate to yourself. But part of me at the moment does feel like I'm being too compassionate. I'm using the excuse.
Over compassionate.
Over compassionate,
Is that a thing?
probably.
Okay. I'm just looking up in this wonderful book
Mhm.
I've got called the dictionary. Um, because although I understand compassion and what it means to me, um, and how I relate to it, it's like, I'm just interested to see what it actually means in the dictionary, what it says. So compassion. Um, how do you spell it? Right, hang on. Let's have a look. Compassion. Here we go. Um, where are you? Compassion. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings of other people. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what it says in the dictionary. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings of other people. And obviously, that would be, you know, pointed towards yourself too, surely. Compassion. Because you have compassion outwardly and inwardly, yeah?
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so
interesting it talks about other people though, more. So compassionate
yeah,
isn't external. And the idea of pity, like,
yeah. Well,
pity seems quite a negative word, doesn't it?
absolutely. Maybe when this was put together, this bookie wookie, when this was done, compassion for oneself wasn't a thing because it is a British dictionary.
Okay, yeah.
From a certain, I'm not sure if we're allowed to say it. It's the the Bible of the dictionary,
Mm,
and it is a very British institution. Would you say that
yeah,
dictionary?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
and maybe in true British style, compassion for oneself wasn't really inclusive at time of publishing it. I don't know. But it is now, and it's something that's really talked about and something that's practiced. Wow. Okay, so compassion. What about compassion for the other? When was the last time you felt? I mean, you work where you
Yeah.
work, right? You've got to have a lot of it for where you work.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's compassion. I have compassion on it's a daily basis. The young people that come through the doors of my school, and also the adults. I just, at the moment, it's really hard to not have compassion, and not be aware of other people's struggles. And there's a lot of people struggling at the moment.
Mm,
Um, and so, uh, yeah, I think I've always have a high level of compassion. And I wonder, I mean, as I alluded to at the beginning of the episode, I worry that actually the self compassion I talk about is just exhaustion. It's not. It's like I'm giving a lot of myself
mm,
to other people and
mm-hmm.
understanding other people's struggles.
Yeah.
And when you look at the energy that takes,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's something that isn't obvious. It isn't obvious that you've talked. People see you talking to people and having conversations, and I don't think people understand the energy that takes. And
Yeah.
I, and it also goes back to that idea of finding your voice as well, because thinking and finding the right words and finding the right things to say to people, especially in something as sensitive as compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and not turning it into pity,
Mm-hmm.
and going like, I don't I haven't lived your life. I don't understand exactly what you're going through.
Mm.
but I'm hearing you, and I can sit alongside you, and I can take it for a little bit,
Mm.
and hopefully find something positive at the end of it. But that for me takes a lot of energy, and I think it does out of everybody. I might, I'm not just
Mm.
saying me, but I think it's something when you sit back and go, I've done this today, I've done this today. Again, that's probably something I should do, something I should do more, be compassionate to myself. Go, actually, what have you done today? It's, it's gratitude is something I struggle with, to say,
Mm.
yes, you've done good today. You've done this. You've done this. This
Mm.
is what you should be grateful for.
Yeah.
And that compassion I struggle with, because I don't necessarily have the energy left to do it for myself.
Yeah. There's a saying, it's a Buddhist saying that I've come across, which is, why do today what you could do tomorrow? And that could be interpreted in so many different ways. I've heard it taught, that to-do lists, all of these lists that we have. I don't write these to-do lists anymore. Oh, actually, no, I've got one to-do list, but it's just for, all of what I do with projects and, you know, um, my creative, of doing what I'm doing. It's like, there's certain things that I need to just keep an eye on, that I need to draw a line under. Oh, I've done that, and I still need to do that. But yeah, I never really was someone to have a to-do list. And I've come across people that have like really big, hefty to-do lists every day.
Mhm.
And if they don't do it, if they don't achieve all of that, they're beating themselves over the head with a big freaking stick, like, feeling bad that they haven't done it. And it's a lot of pressure and a massive expectation. And it's not very compassionate towards oneself, having this really overwhelming sense, I've got to do all these things. And I think that's where that saying came from, is like, why do today what you could do tomorrow? It's okay.
Yeah.
That's more of a compassionate outlook to life. Fine line between that and it's that stoner, my stoner. I'm gonna have to use that as my stoner attitude that I used to have was, why do today what I could do tomorrow? And then tomorrow it's like, yeah, why do today what I could do tomorrow? Um, but yeah, it's some compassion to that sort of um mindset, I feel. Um, yeah, I don't know. What you're describing sounds like depletion a little bit.
Yeah.
Like as in you've got a tank
Mm.
and you top it up with, let's say it's a full tank of energy that you
Mhm.
might, let's say, start the week with on Monday, right? And you got a full tank, in theory, you got a full tank of energy. Um, this is not just for you, this is everyone, anyone listening. Let's just imagine a world where on a Monday morning you wake up with a full tank of energy brimming to the top of like, yeah, I'm ready for the week, right? Or I'm just ready, let's keep it in the day. Just for today, I'm ready. Monday, right? Maybe it's not just, I mean, your job, you've got a lot of, I'm gonna use the term energy vamps, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that feed on us. And I think everyone knows what an energy vamp is, right?
Mm.
Excuse me. Now, if you're around energy vamps, I'm gonna just run with that term, right? Then is it any surprise that maybe by Wednesday your tank is on red, right? And then by Friday you're empty,
Yep.
right? And then Saturday you wake up and you're like, "Phew, do you know what? I'm just gonna lie here on this sofa for the morning and I'm just gonna chill out and gather my thoughts and see what I really need to do today." And then that equates to, I'll order in a pizza. And then that results in, you know, I'll order in a takeaway later on as well. And then before you know it, it's Sunday and then you sort of, and there's that. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm not saying that's what anyone's doing, but that's just a scenario. I'm just saying that
It's not
that's
far off. It's not
right.
far off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Is it? Right. So, and I'm just when I run through that, I'm imagining what I could do if it were me. If I'm in your position, if I'm in that position where on Monday, you know, um, in an ideal world, I've got a full tank to the brim, right, of energy, and then it's getting drained by energy vamps because of the nature of you know the job or the people that I'm
Yeah.
around. Now, to some degree, I really relate to that, what I'm saying, because I'm imagining that, but I've actually lived like that, so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, is it like that now for me? Not so. I wouldn't say because compassion for me is recognizing it. I think that's a big part of it.
Hmm.
Being non-compassionate to oneself is actually ignoring that that's what's going on and continuing to have a empty tank.
Yeah.
And maybe, what can I do with that? Is it just is that just what it is? Is this my lot and this is what I've just got to um live with, or can I change that? And how do I top my tank up? And I think for a lot of people, I can only presume, and I'm talking from my own experience,
Hmm.
when you get to the end of the week and you feel like you've got an empty tank, what does one do with that? Um, I'm I'm definitely someone, I can have an empty tank by Tuesday if I'm working on a job where it's really full on frontline shit. But um it's self-preservation, self-regulation, self-care, right? Looking after oneself, self-love, all of that stuff, self-compassion. Is to just recognize this is what is going on for me, and I need to just nurture that. And maybe for me, I'll talk for myself. For me, stillness is a key component, huge component to it. Is I need some stillness
Okay.
just to replenish, reset, recenter, ground, stillness, a little bit of solitude, um, to recharge. Do I need to be on my own for that? Not necessarily, but it helps. Okay, so what am I gonna put into my body in that stillness? Lots of water, good for me. Healthy food, lots of sleep, rest. Okay, watch some inspiring documentaries, maybe write a song,
Right.
do
Yeah.
some writing,
Yeah.
go for a nice walk because I can still have stillness in the countryside on a
Yeah.
um sit on a I'm very lucky, I can go sit on a rock near an ocean where I live and get the stillness from the ocean. That beautiful I'm zoning out now. I'm going into I'm getting into that meditative space, but
Self trance. Yeah.
but this is it. This is where I go with it. And I'm not
Mm.
just talking through it to you and to me and to everyone else that might be listening. This is where I go. This is what I'm describing is where I need to go when I feel like I've got an empty tank.
Yeah. I think we. I don't know whether we did this on an episode or whether it was a prior conversation, but we were talking about walking and and you have, I mean, we're a bit like the town mouse and the country mouse at the moment, but it feels like you have got beautiful countryside all around you, and you've got the sea,
I'm blessed, yeah.
which I'm very jealous of. But we were talking about the fact when you walk and you don't put headphones on, you
Mhm,
just go and enjoy the nature and the peace,
mhm,
and that's what energizes you. And weirdly, at the moment for me, I tend to go into London town and I have my headphones on and quite
Mhm.
often I'll have some quite intense music on,
Mm.
and it's busy, and I just that's what's energizing me at the moment is almost overstimulation.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
is walking. I hate getting the tube. I just find it dirty and crowded, and yeah, it's just horrible. So if I can walk, I will, and I'm quite happy to walk all the way across London and
Yeah,
just
love
walk.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and I just love finding bits because you go through crowds, and then suddenly you'll be in the middle of an empty street, and you're like, oh, I've never seen this building before. I've never seen this, and
Yeah,
I just love sort of just finding my way, winding around, and then suddenly, you hit another landmark, and you're like, oh, I'm here, and it
yeah.
and it's and that's yeah, that's my walking practice at the moment.
Mm.
But it's yeah, it's quite different to where your meditative in nature peacefulness is at the moment.
But
Uh,
yeah, but I mean, it's like you can get that anywhere.
yeah,
It's just the texture of
mm,
where I am is ocean, vast coastal walks and, you know, plain open rolling fields with, a lot of farm and not a lot of people living on it, and it's like that until summer. But like you can get that kind of what I was walking through and talking through anywhere, you know. When I come up to London or go to any city, I still can retain that sense of compassionate calmness. I'm gonna roll with this.
yeah.
Um, because I do believe it's interlinked. Because what's the opposite of compassion, do you think? When you're not displaying compassion to oneself or others,
I think you're being selfish. You're being
self-centered,
self-centered.
self-absorbed.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's probably a lot of stuff that
yeah. I mean, you're probably being quite
non-compassionate.
non-compassionate. Yeah, no, I think you're probably being quite aggressive, aren't you?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
you're probably putting if
There's a
you're
hardness to
yeah,
it.
you're just like right. I'm not putting up with your shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just gonna
there's a
call you on
hard.
it.
Yeah, there's a hardness, like
Yeah,
harshness. There's um, a toughness to it, right? So I feel like they are definitely interlinked. I'm gonna roll with it. I am. I feel like it's good that I want to do it. It's like
mm,
for me, it makes sense. It really makes sense to me that if you're uptight, I don't know why we've gone. Why why I've gone down this direction with it, but it's just the way I've gone. Um, if I'm uptight, right? So look, if I'm overworked, um, and I'm doing too much, and I've got too
mm,
much pressure on my shoulders. Maybe some of that is coming from my work, from my family, pressures of just living life,
mm,
money, all of these pressures that we have that feel overwhelming, you know, they
mm.
can feel really anxiety inducing, right? If we've got all this pressure, we're not dropping our shoulders. I'm always using that term, our shoulders are going to be tight. Breathing's going to be, we're going to be
Hello.
holding our breath a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Shallow breathing. There's going to be tightness in the body. Sleep's going to be affected. All of this stuff, that's not calmness.
No,
That's not a calm experience. It's the opposite, right? How can one be compassionate towards oneself and others when you feel like that? Right. So it is interlinked. And as always, I'm the first one to say it. Forget being compassionate to other people if you can't show it to yourself.
yeah. I think that's key. Is you talked about energy vamps sort of sucking the energy out of you, but I think there's also an energy absorption. I
Mm,
think if you are giving to people and being compassionate to people, and that is not reciprocated,
mm,
then you are absorbing some of that energy as well,
mm-hmm.
and that sort of don't want to describe it as darkness because that sounds like everyone, yeah, is just, it sounds almost like evil, but it's not. It's people are just having a really hard time, and you take that energy from them because you're being compassionate and you're sitting with them and you're listening to their narrative,
Mm.
and it can't help but sort of sit, as you said. I know that it sits in my shoulders. I mean, the last time I had a massage, the masseuse, the guy said, I'm going to work on your out breath, Ben. He said, so when I work into you, I really want you to breathe out. And,
Mhm.
you know, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I get that. After about 10 minutes, he said, Ben, he said, you're not breathing out. I'm like, what? And he said, you don't know how to breathe.
Mm.
And he said, you're holding everything in. And he said, I just want you to, I want you to actually use, you know, I want you to sigh. I want you to sigh the breath out so you can
Mm.
actually hear that noise as it comes out. And I was joking with some staff the other day at work, as that we've got these steps that go up into the door that you unlock to go into the main school, and there was a member of staff that's just sort of, she goes, I'm just getting all the sighs out now before I go into the school. And then literally after she'd done that, another member of staff came through the door and just went down the steps and went, ah. I'm like, oh, you know, what's happened out there? She's like, I'm just letting it out.
Yep.
And I think, yeah, that ability to have compassion for other people's experiences. And I think both you and I work with people whose experiences are, they're in a bad place.
Big
And
time. Yep.
I guess what I'm interested in now is, we talked a little bit about self-compassion and about breathing and walking and doing the having the toolbox that's gonna be healthy for us. I guess, how do you, where does that compassion sit when you're working with someone that their narrative is just so broken and they're in such a bad place that they are just sucking the energy out of you? How do you put that boundary in to say, like, just that this is yours, you own this?
Yeah.
um
That's a good question.
because you know, we both do it. We both work with people that are getting close to bottom, if not at bottom, and we're trying to pull them back up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, so my understanding is there's empathy. So you bring the big brother in,
Yep.
if that's, or big sister,
Hmm.
the mother. Empathy, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. This is just the way I see it. Empathy is like a deeper, really broader range of understanding, emotional depth of field that you can tap into,
Hmm.
which obviously is also compassion.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. I may be wrong in what I'm saying, but that's just the way I see it. And when I'm coming from that broader range of depth of field of emotion and experience, empathy, now the people I work with, I've never engaged and collaborated and mentored, and assisted in helping someone who isn't displaying something that I've not already been through myself in some shape or form.
Yep.
Different stories, different, chain of events, whatever. But there's a there's an understanding there. There's like it's almost like the term trauma bonding is used a lot in treatment and, in that world that that I bolt onto. So I understand it. And I get what they say about that. With a lot of trauma bonding, it's about separating it because it's an enmeshment. It's like a dysfunctional, codependent uh, binding of two people through their trauma. And I think what I do, it's almost like I sort of just momentarily attach to that
Yep.
to just hold them a little bit,
Yeah.
to do a little bit of, it's a bit like Inception, the film,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you're just getting into their psyche long enough to hold that space for them to feel like, I'm okay at this moment. Like right now, I'm okay because this guy, I feel him. I feel it. He
Hmm.
sees me. I know he does. And then the key to that is you've got to fucking cut that bond. You've got to, because if you don't, you're going to be taking that home with you all day and at the weekend and sitting on your sofa eating pizza, and you've still got that trauma bond. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah. It's a friend of of my family, someone that worked with my dad at one point. Um, he became a heroin addict. Well, he's always dabbled with heroin. This is a bit sorry, it's a bit dark. We've gone straight to heroin.
That's okay. That's all right.
But it's just in terms of what you're saying about sitting at that level. And he got involved with this woman,
Hmm.
and she was a heroin addict, and he needed, or his theory was that he needed to get to her level to bring her back out.
There you go. Yeah.
So he started taking heroin to
Bloody hell.
to come down to her level,
Jesus.
or up to
Mate,
her level, whichever. Which,
take one for the team there,
yeah,
mate.
yeah.
Jesus.
And you know, and he'd been hooked before in his life, so it wasn't like he hadn't been there before. But he
Yeah.
yeah, it was a dark couple of years for him, obviously, as you can imagine, as this woman sort of uh yeah, sort of absorbed him. And I just wonder that when you're saying about I'm gonna sit, and this is empathy. I think it's totally empathy. And that, and you know, we talked about compassion maybe having an element of pity to it. Well, empathy is very much, I'm going to sit alongside you and I'm going to
Yeah.
hear your story,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say it must be really tough.
Yeah.
What you're going through is sounds shit, and I'm going to sit here with you in it and see whether we
Mm,
can find some common ground and try and find a way out.
mm.
But
Beautiful.
I'm not gonna say you shouldn't feel this and
Yeah.
you should feel this. And I'm not gonna,
Mm.
the pity bit is like, oh, when I felt this way or when I did this is how you get out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly that. Exactly that. I'm gonna use the Jedi, right? So, so, um, I watched those films. I rewatched all of the Star Wars, all of that stuff.
Hmm.
I watched Return of the Jedi at the cinema when it came out. I
Hmm.
remember up at West End, we all bundled into my mates. Like, dad's, he run an antique company. They're really rich at the time. They were like the rich family with the tennis court. And I was like some kid off of some middle class estate, working class estate. Um, and yeah, we all bundled in the back of the van, went up to the West End to watch Return of the Jedi. And then we all ran around in his garden after, pretending to be Ewoks. Anyway, and I rewatched all of them films, and I do continue. I'm not like a geek over it. I just think the what's in there, the sort of the base of it, which I think is loosely, correct me if I'm wrong. It's just what I think. It's loosely based on some sort of like samurai
Mm,
thing, yeah.
yeah.
And there's a real kind of like spiritual undertone. I don't know if it's actually an undertone. It's like it's really prevalent. It's really
Mm,
obvious to me that the Jedi. My point is that the Jedi. There's something about the lightsabers, the colors. Is
hmm.
this? Do you know a bit about this? Do you? Do you know more than what I'm whittering on about?
I
Please,
might be more of a geek, but yeah, go on.
please help me out then if I'm getting this wrong. And so the Jedi are the light,
Mhm.
the crusaders of goodness, and
Yeah.
keeping order and peace, and they're all about compassion and empathy and all of the good stuff, right? And then you got the dark side of the force. And the ones that go over to the dark side were once upon a time, you know, the good guys, right? And then
Yeah.
through pain, and then their fear and anger, the core of it turns into the dark side, and they lose that compassion and all of that stuff. And their lightsabers are red. And but my point is that the Jedi, to be Jedi, sometimes they have to go tap into the dark side of the Force
Yeah.
to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that right? What I'm saying? Please help
Yeah, I
me.
think so. No, I think that makes sense. It's what we've, yeah, like you're saying, you sit with your people you work with, and you know you associate with where they're at
Mm,
in the same way that that guy thought he had to,
mm.
you know, not in the same way, but the guy had to take the heroin to come down to this
Yeah.
woman's level, so he thought. Um, and I do think there needs to be that connection for compassion to be real, so it isn't just a pity party. I
Mm.
think there is that need for compassion to be to understand someone else's situation.
Mm.
And even if their situation is completely opposite to you, I think if you can sit alongside someone, then there's a chance that you may find some common ground.
Mm.
Whereas at the moment, it feels like we are not compassionate to anyone else's context. We're like, I don't care what's going on for you because it's so bad for me.
Yeah.
And we're in a sort of selfish place at the moment. And I don't think there's any need to, you know, give ourselves completely to other people, like I was saying. But I think I think we have lost a lot of compassion for our fellow man. I don't think we think um, there's the question of like, do you think people get up in the morning to do the right thing? And I think it's a really interesting idea that I don't think people would automatically say yes.
Mm.
I think we would say actually no, that person has got up
Mm.
to go and take the heroin, to go and be an abuser, to be a. It's like why have they got to that point? And
Mm.
it's really difficult then to say is it okay? Not that I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's okay, but are they doing the best with what they've got?
Mm.
And I think both in the work that we do, the compassion that we have to have is to say this family situation, this young person is growing up observing X, Y, and Z, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go into
Yeah. Yeah.
details
Yeah.
just in case, but I think that's where the compassion goes, is understanding. Right, I have no idea what your life is like. This sounds absolutely crazy to me,
Yeah.
and I don't know how I would be if I was sitting in this context that you're sitting in.
Mm.
But I am compassionate to it,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting here and I'm ready to listen and understand, and you know, try and find a way forward. And I think you in the work that you're doing with young people, I think you're probably allowed to be well. It's a different role. You're still educating, you're still teaching, but it's a different role in that you can say, I've been here.
Mm.
This is where I've sat. I've sat exactly where you're sitting at the moment, and now I can help
Yeah.
if you want it. I mean, I think that's the difference for you. You can say, do you want this or don't you want it?
Yeah. 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 And sometimes, that hardness that I was talking about, the opposite of calm
Yeah.
needs to be there as a boundary. Because we're dealing with, um, yeah, I mean, it really is like being on the battlefield sometimes.
Mm.
It's not comparable, but I'm saying just it's frontline stuff. You're dealing with extreme mania, chaos,
Hmm.
trauma led dysfunctional behavior,
Yeah.
which is um, really pretty mad. It's really
Yeah.
pretty mad sometimes. So you've got to have a very clear understanding first and foremost of what you're dealing with, and you couldn't do that if you hadn't got a lot of experience in your own uh, life of living like that to some degree, in my opinion.
Mm.
Anyway, outside of that, because that's just the way we see it. For anyone who is listening to this, right? Is this relative? Compassionate um, response to your day to day life and your interaction from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed. What does that look like? For me, I go back to it, right? I'm going to bring love in, right? Um, Compassion, love, right? How can we all hear this? How can you love someone if you can't love yourself?
Hmm.
Yeah, and there's some truth to that
Yeah.
from my own experience, definitely. So I know that there's some truth in that for me. So I've had to learn. I've had to explore that one, do some work around it, and continue to practice it and cultivate. To the best of my ability, continue to do that. And it's the same with compassion. How can you bring compassion to your life, to the world, to your fellow earthlings, if you do not understand how to be compassionate towards yourself? Is it possible?
I don't think it is. For me, it's not. If you're not passionate about, sorry, compassionate about yourself. But sorry, that's where it's got me thinking about when you said passion and love, because you've got that part of the word sitting there. It feels to me like that love, that passion for something, and that
Mm.
and you put the compassion with it. Um, and I was, yeah, I think it's unless you can sit there with yourself and understand your own narrative well enough to move beyond it, then I think it's impossible to sit there with someone else's without turning it into something negative, turning it into
Mm.
pity, or you know, it's a really difficult one
Mm.
to have, to find that balance. Yeah,
Mm. And I always bring this up. The culture, is that the right word? That we're
yeah,
currently
yeah.
in society, in the world, the way we live in our lives.
Hmm.
Do you think it lends itself to cultivating bundles of compassion?
No, no. We're living in a world at the moment where we just, yeah, we're just making things really hard. And uh, I'm sort of, I mean, I've just looked up like passion, where it comes from as a word, and it comes
Passion fruit?
passion fruit. And the Latin passio means to suffer, endure, or resign.
Hang on, walk me through that again.
So if you take where passion as a word comes from the Latin to suffer, endure, or resign. So
Okay, right.
when you talked about love and passion, and my thoughts automatically went to some sort of, passionate, love, and two people together, and all of that, and actually compassion is together. The com bit is together, and the passio, the passion bit, is to suffer, endure, and resign. So compassion is we are suffering together.
It's
We're in trauma bonding together.
trauma bonding.
Yeah.
So compassion is trauma bonding.
Yeah. Which is where we've been. And
Yeah.
I think it's really dangerous to get sucked into uh that that sitting alongside someone and sucked in, like we've talked about, the energy vamps and the energy drains, and sitting with that energy. And I think that's, but it's also something we need to do to understand the world, to understand life, is to have compassion for ourselves and compassion for everyone else, is to understand and endure, resign ourselves to this is what it is, that we don't have any control over it, and it is, there's a lot of unknowns, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's tickled me a little bit that it kind of means trauma bonding. Which kind of makes sense in a way because it's kind of like let's just let's just imagine that we're all highly traumatized at the moment
Yeah.
because let's just pretend we all are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just assume that everyone's traumatized to fuck, right?
Yep.
By recent events, that everything that's played out over the last, let's just say, the last century.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, yeah,
There's loads, right?
yeah.
And you could just break it down to the last 10 years. There's a lot,
Mm-hmm.
20 years. There's a lot in there,
Yep.
a hell of a lot. So let's run with this, that everyone is like traumatized to fuck by what's happened in the past few years or so.
Yep.
It's fair to say, anyone that's out there who is not affected by something in their lifespan, firstly, let's know about it, and I'd like to salute you.
Mm-hmm.
Great, and I'm really pleased for you. That's really a beautiful thing, and I wish I was one of those people. Maybe I don't actually, because I wouldn't be who I am if I was unaffected, not exposed to some mad shit. It's perception.
Yep.
We'll get back to that in a minute, but
Mm-hmm.
let's just roll with, um, you know, I think there's a lot of people that could put their hand up and go, yeah, I really get what you're saying. There's a lot of there's a lot of reasons to feel like a little bit shell shocked at
Yeah.
the moment, right? So, as always, what we need to, for me anyway, explore, investigate, to be curious and not settle for, well, if you've been through what I've been through, you'd be a cunt too. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
just said the CUNT
Big
word.
one. Yeah.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. But if you felt like me, you'd be like this too. You'd be uptight. You'd be angry. You'd be rah, rah, just and just that whole opposite of compassionate calmness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that's I know that one well, right? So I'm only whittering on about what I'm drawing from my own experience, basically. So if you're like me and you feel like that currently, what do we do with that? Okay, because for me, I know what I did with it, you
Yeah.
know, and it resulted in me having this attitude, and it is an attitude. And this is what I say to the young people, drop your attitude, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Change that because look what it's doing. This is why you're talking to me. You're talking to me because there's a problem.
Yeah.
So we need to look at this. So if you're walking around with your shoulders tight and and you're crossing your arms and you've got every reason to be angry, I get it. I empathize with you. I have compassion for you. I get it. I understand. But you've got a choice. You've always got a choice. And people, and I was one of them, felt like I didn't have a choice. And this is where we're at currently at the moment, is I feel like we feel a little bit, and it always comes back to powerlessness and feeling entrapped in life and in this situation.
Uh,
Therefore, how can I be compassionate about that?
And I think it's very much
It's perception.
it's perception. It's very much that argument of compassion for yourself, but and compassionate for others. Is where does that balance sit at the moment? And I
Mm,
feel at the moment, like you said, we are trapped in a very small world.
hmm
We are quite selfish
hmm
in where we sit as individuals,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and so uh, so some of us will have guilt in that I am just sitting in my own world.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's where I feel I'm at the moment. I'm feeling a little bit lazy.
yeah,
That's there's a bit of you know
yeah.
bit of negativity around it. Whereas I think there's a lot more people are happy to sit in their bubbles
Mm,
and sit with the idea of self compassion. That I'm looking after me. I'm okay, and that ability to uh, I really like that word endure, but to endure together
yeah,
because there is a lack of community, a lack of people coming together and actually saying, I'm living this too. It's the work we do is individualized. It's like we sit with a family or a individual, another young person.
Mm.
And it's like I'm having this conversation with you one to one.
Mm.
It's very difficult to do that work and make it bigger and make it about the community and go, actually, there's a lot of us feeling this way. There's a lot of us having these issues and this context,
Mm.
and yeah, there'll be nuances, there'll be differences, you know, that we come from different backgrounds, different cultures, but we're all enduring this at the moment. We've all got the same pain in terms of how the world is playing out.
Mm.
Um, and I think the balance for compassion is where I'm getting to at the moment with the way we're talking. Is that not enough people have compassion for us as a whole. It's individualized. This group of people we're going to be compassionate about today. This
Yeah.
people, it feels very specific. Does
It's
that
not
make
collect.
sense?
It's
Am
not
I?
collect. It's not collective. It's
Yeah.
like
Where's the community? And the community should be really broad. Should be a broad church of
yeah,
of
yeah.
of all this trauma that we're going on about at the moment. And I sometimes wonder, like you said, like we've all like, is it that we find people that have similar traumas? You
Mm-hmm.
know, do we find people that mirror us?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it that actually there's a group of people, like you said, that haven't had any trauma and can and are the normal people? I don't know if that's there's a group of people sitting out there that go, actually, I'm fine. I haven't had any trauma, and my life's been great. And whether we sit in a minority where we say, actually, there has been a lot of trauma.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Comes down to yin yang
Yeah.
balance of everything. That's the natural order of everything. Is night and day, and
Mm,
that's okay. That's what's required. So what one are you in? Are you in the yeah, I feel very compassionate towards myself, life and others, and I help my fellow earthlings as much as I help myself, and life is good because of it.
mm,
Or are you someone that's just um a recluse, that's self-preservation is your key agenda for your life, and you are indifferent and separate and keep yourself to yourself? I mean, there's no right or wrong. I mean, people, humans, we've got to do what we've got to do. Survival at the moment. That's what it feels like, right? Just
yeah, yeah.
literally, it's literally like survival.
But it feels like everyone's running to the woods and building a cabin. It's not let's run out to the run out to the nearest open space and build a village together.
Yeah,
Let's build a fire and sit around it and talk.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, like you said, self-preservation.
Was the country, and it's the Scandies, isn't it? I think it might actually be Denmark or Norway. It's one of those two, I feel. Or is it Finland? I don't know. Maybe all of them. And they have the shared living communities where they welcome and encourage and promote and live um, in little villages, like old school style. So
Hmm.
they've got all the homes are on the same plot, and they all come together for communal dinner. They all prepare the dinner together, they all eat together, and they all, you know, clear up and do everything as a community together,
Hmm.
as a mass community.
Mm.
And I think that's a really, and they're rappy. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but it sounds kind of community. Sounds like that sort of communal living, doesn't it? That
Yeah.
there's a couple of films, isn't there? There's is it Together? There's a
Mm,
Scandi film about a commune where a group of people sort of try to have that kind of living, and then it all falls
goes
apart.
oh,
Yeah,
it always goes wrong, doesn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's always a documentary where it's
yeah,
that guy,
yeah.
or yeah, it's normally the guy, isn't it? Why is it always the guy,
Yeah.
the leader,
Hmm.
self-appointed, yeah,
The ego
chief?
gets in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man, but yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, for me, what I do, right? So my old my old part of the first act of my life was I didn't really, yeah, I didn't know love, and I lost my passions,
Mhm.
love and passions, and so the compassion fell away, right?
Yep.
I was self-centered, um, in a pity party, you know, just in that victim. I'm a victim here. And in Act Two is coming out of that. And I
Yep.
learned and I was educated. I was curious. I wanted to explore everything to do with, life. I wanted to learn philosophy of life, psycho part of it, the somatic part. It's all interlinked, mind, body, and spirit, whatever you want to call it. And today I continue to do that. And I'm living in Act Three.
Right.
That's the way I see it, right? And a big part of what I started to lean into was, yeah, what everything I've been saying really is it's far greater than just my attitude. It starts with that, my attitude,
Yep.
perception, right? I'm either the victim or I'm not the victim. I'm actually, I'm very far away from the victim of life, right? So, and in that space, I can then start to explore all the good stuff, the
Mhm.
nurturing stuff, yeah. Learn to love, you know, reconnect to passions,
Yeah.
um, and and practice compassion for myself and others, and all of that stuff. And a big part of that was learning how to. That calmness comes with that as well. The stillness. I always go back to stillness. And for me, learning how to connect to my breath and my body and the natural rhythm of that, um, and how I play a role in that,
Yeah.
how I can be part of it. So it's not just happening to me, you know. So I can start to really get into embodying um, self compassion, not just learning about it and displaying it in acts of goodwill. It's like really feeling it. And a big part of that was to use certain um, narratives that learned, and I still use them every day. They're like mantras. I'm getting all cosmic now, but I don't care because it's been really effective and it doesn't cost any money, and I do it every day. It's like I say to myself, may I be happy, may I be at ease, may I be well, may I be free from suffering. And I say that every morning, or I might say it throughout the day, whatever. And then I say it outwardly, may others be happy, may others be at ease, may others be well and free from suffering. And, the me part and then the other part, collectively, the we, me making that statement to myself, it's almost like I'm, you know, signing a contract every day. And I've been doing it for years just to prompt myself to do that to myself, to be that for myself, and to be that outwardly. That's what it takes for me to walk it.
Yeah.
And I have had that experience. I don't always get it right. I don't always do it, but I do it often enough that it's in my consciousness to be it. If that makes sense. That's really deep what I'm saying, and some people might be like, "Oh God." But some people may really connect to what I'm saying and go, because it's about positive affirmation in layman's terms.
Yeah, and I think it's you understanding where you sit and where your narrative is at. And I really like that idea of the three acts, and you're I hope, well, the third act I presume is the final act, but it's also you realizing where you need to be or where you want to be. So not where you need to be, but
Mm,
where you want to be as a human being, and having compassion for yourself and for others.
mm.
And one of the things I've worked on quite a lot in the past year is that idea of the drama triangle. You heard of this?
Yeah, yeah, I work with that a lot
Yeah.
with the young people. Yeah.
Whether where you sit on that triangle, whether you're a victim, rescuer, or persecutor.
All of them.
All of them. Yeah.
All of them, all the time.
Yeah. And we work with people, or I definitely work with people where the drama is constant, because that's where people feel at ease,
Mhm.
because that's what people see as life playing out, and that narrative, and I, that positive mantra of trying to step away, the idea being that you sit above the drama triangle. You don't
Yeah,
have to be any of those roles. You
yeah,
can you can just be watching it unfold,
absolutely.
and you can be compassionate for anyone that's sitting and playing one of those roles, and say, look, at the moment, you know, you're being the rescuer, and you're right about everything. You might not be.
Yeah,
So let's just step away from that role, and let's see if we can change the narrative. And I think that's really, really important, is understanding the story and where we sit within that drama of the story. Um,
absolutely.
um, and I think positive affirmations is one of the ways forward, because you're literally giving yourself a script. You're,
100%.
and that script is how you're going to live your life.
Yeah,
Whereas if you do, and you're doing it consciously.
yeah,
Whereas if you do it subconsciously, then invariably you get sucked into these these tropes, these
yeah.
narratives that we've just been living by for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're saying. And it's really easy to poo-poo these sort of, things like what I just said, what I'm saying, I might I'll always get into this sort of stuff when I know someone's ready to be open to hearing it, right?
Yeah.
So there's some people that might be listening are doing what I'm actually saying, maybe, they might be going, oh God, poo-pooing it. It's
Hmm.
like pie in the sky, whatever,
Yeah.
bloody hell, get a grip, mate, all of that stuff. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. I had that response too, right? When I was all three of those people on the driving trial, hang on. And I was in a caught up in a high functioning addiction to absolutely everything I get my hands on, and I was just emotionally stumped, and my life was chaotic, and secretly I wanted to kill myself every fucking day.
Yeah.
I was living with that, but then I'm putting out to the world that everything's groovy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because my pride and ego's just, whatever. So I get it. I get it. It's really hard to sort of lean into this stuff, but I've got a lot of experience in my journey. Act two shows me that when I started to study all this stuff and apply it, and most importantly, apply it, and it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of heart. You've got to be dedicated to the cause. But when you step into that and you realize that you're worth it, that sounds so fucking cliche, but it's true. When you realize that you do, it's okay to be, to 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 drop the guard. It's okay to be a little bit scared,
Yeah.
and to try some stuff that is a bit weird and you're not sure on because you don't maybe trust it. But what I discovered is that it completely catapults you into act three, which is, you know, living out of the drama triangle, out of the chaos and the drama and the self-hatred and the feeling of hopelessness and powerlessness and all of that. It's complete opposite. Your life becomes incredible. And it's not because I'm amazing or clever or anything. It's just I followed some simple instructions laid out to me that other people had presented to me, and they said, "Don't take my word for it. You got to have your own experience, see if it works for you."
Yeah.
That's what I did, and I applied it. I still do, and it still works for me. And it doesn't cost any money. This is the mad thing. It doesn't cost any money. What we're talking about, it's mindset, it's perception. It's literally as simple as I think that's a load of bollocks. I don't want to do it. To let's have a look at this, and I'm going to try some of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. I mean, the opposite of that is buying the self help books, and the pile I have building up by the side of my bed of books that are going to fix me, and if I just follow this simple set of rules, And it is, yeah, you don't need the book. Like you said, you don't need to necessarily read every single self-help book to work out
No.
how to fix yourself. And it's
Yeah.
it's about having, I really do believe that, is that it's about finding the tools that work for you,
Mm.
and being grateful
Mm.
for where you are in your story and understanding where you are in your story.
Absolutely that. It's really, it's far simpler than, we overcomplicate it.
Mm,
We overcomplicate it. I overcomplicate it. The minute I started to realize that is when I started to get on in the right groove.
mm,
And I kept it simple. And it starts with just one line, one little, write your own fucking line. Don't, use someone else's or use someone else's. I've used other people's, but I'm a bit of a wordsmith and a bit of a creative, so I design my own fucking mantra. Do you know what I mean? And I put some stuff together that worked for me.
yeah.
And they're positive affirmations. And they are. You've got to rewire, you've got to reprogram the bullshit that we've been. I don't know about everyone else. I do know, but I'm not going to speak for everyone else. I'm going to speak for me. For as long as I can remember when I was younger, I was conditioned, programmed. I received a lot of information that wasn't accurate.
Hmm.
And I believed it.
Yeah.
And I lived my life by it,
Hmm.
like my life depended on it. And I got to a point with that where I didn't want to live anymore.
Mm.
And I've been medicating on it and trying to find the answers. And I never found them. And here I am in Act 3, having sat in Act 3, and I'll be in Act 3 until I draw my last breath, right? Um, I've started to find the answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're really simple. And the irony is, it's a bit of a contradiction because when I stopped searching, that's when I found what I was looking for. That sounds so cliche. It's true. Like when I stopped searching, I found what I was looking for. It's when I sat with myself and started to just be in this compassionate stillness of getting to know who I am. Who am I?
Mm.
Without trying to overthink it or overcook it. Just kept it really simple. Beans on toast. You know what I mean? And it's such a hard thing to wrap your head around because when I'm saying it like I'm a know-it-all, I'm saying it like I've got all the answer. I'm saying it like I've got confidence with what I'm saying because I know what I feel and the journey I've been on and where I sit today, and it's beautiful. But it's so hard. It was so hard for me to even imagine my life being like that when I was caught in all of that mad shit. It's really hard when you can't see a better way of being. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. No, it really, really does make a lot of
It's
sense.
almost impossible.
It goes back to that whole, yeah, you can't have compassion for anything else unless you have compassion for yourself. Unless you have gone through and endured your, I love it, sorry, endure. I'm keep on using the word endure because I'm that's
It's a good
stuck in my
word.
head. Yeah.
That's a good word.
But it's, yeah. And I think we look to so many external factors. We look to other people, uh, whether it's the book, the manual, whatever, the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
YouTube video, the whatever. There's somebody is going to save us. The Instagram post, this is the aspiration. We're looking to all this external stuff when actually sitting with your own head and working out where it is that you know what you really believe in, what is your voice,
Mm,
what is your narrative,
mhm.
and there is a real simplicity to that. And I wonder whether that is whether that's something that comes with age, that wisdom, whether you can get it at another point earlier in life. I know that there's part of me that wishes I'd I had that simplicity and wisdom early on in life. Um, but yeah, it feels at the moment that there is a lot of just stuff. There's a lot of noise. The world is busy with just, nothing is, we don't sit with anything for longer than
No,
a few minutes. It feels like it's really difficult to find stillness.
exactly.
And the moment you do turn yourself inward and look and find that calmness and compassion for yourself, then there is more ability or more chance that you may be able to turn that round and give it to other people.
100%. And there is a lot of distractions that are there. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but they're there maybe to divert us away from actually doing that. I don't know. That sounds a bit like
Mm.
conspiracy vibes, but I don't know. It's look, for me, theatre, I always say the theatre of life. For me, so important. So important. I really believe that we need music, movies, you know, sport, whatever it is that is your theatre for life, that stuff that you
Mm.
can just go to and have a bit of respite from your day-to-day life that might be a little bit fucking overwhelming or mundane or whatever, uninspiring. It's really important. I use that a lot. I love it. For me, it's normally plugging into an amp with a pedal, effects pedal, and turning into Pink Floyd. Or something like that, just for an hour or something. Or, and I love documentaries, I love movies, right? But and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really a healthy thing to do. I really do believe that. I think it's a beautiful thing we've got that. But it's there's a lot of stuff that it's a weird thing, like the horror thing that's going on at the moment. I just don't get that. There's a lot of stuff that there's such a trend to see, true crime and fucked up shit, and just there's a lot of fucking mad shit that we're consuming as well. And what I just described, what I love watching, is not that. It's the rainbows and waterfalls and all that shit.
The kitten videos, yeah.
No, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just stuff that I've got a lot of stuff in my head that I've spent a lot of time trying to remove that shit. Thank you very much. I don't really want to fill it with dark shit. I want to, it's really important to me that for that calmness and the compassion to really be maximized. You know.
I think it's for for me. I really I don't want to go to pretend it's a conspiracy theory. I don't think it's even that. I think it's so obvious at the moment. I think bad stuff is monetized.
Mm.
News is monetized, and the worse the news, the more viewing figures it's going to get. And we are bombarded with, and I do think it's a distraction. I think there's something happening
Yeah.
in another country, in another world, external to us that we have no control over, which gives us this fear,
Mm.
this inability to actually just focus on what we need to. And I
Function, like literally just
yeah,
function. Yeah.
and that, I mean, and I love that idea of you sitting there with your effects pedal, making the next ambient Pink Floyd prog rock track. But it's that flow, isn't it? The idea of flow is
Yeah.
that we can get involved in something and time just disappears and nothing else matters. We're in that flow state.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do that with my drawing, and I do that,
Yeah.
yeah, where you can just get sucked into another world.
Yeah.
And like, it is so important to then realize there's more,
Yeah.
that it's not just all war and financial crises and
Mm.
people shouting at each other and just getting angry,
Yeah.
and it's, you know, it's
Hatred, isn't it? It's
yeah,
hatred. That's what
yeah,
it is.
and lack of understanding of other people. It's
Maybe that's the opposite. Sorry to inject.
yeah,
That's the opposite of compassion is hatred.
yeah,
Maybe. I don't know.
yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yin yang, you know, light and dark. And maybe we need, I'm not saying we need it because wouldn't it be lovely to not have it, but maybe, you know, maybe that's just life. It's always been there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it has.
But we
Maybe it
just like
has.
you always say this because of the technology and the internet and social media and the way we consume. We just know exactly where it is and what's going on and where it is 24/7. So we feel completely consumed by it unless we
Yeah,
switch off from it.
yeah. I also think it's unfortunately we've always lived in a place where the loudest voices will get the most attention,
Yeah.
and now we're living in a media drenched world. You know, the person that can shout the loudest is has got more platforms than anyone else. So it's really difficult then to be in a place where you can find the quiet.
Yeah.
And
And the sorry,
yeah, and I think that's where we get sucked into. We look at the loudest,
mm,
the brashest, we're looking to people that are shouting, and
yeah,
actually, it's I, I've uh, I think where was it? It was a quote the other day I saw, and it was something like, "The loudest voice in the room isn't always the most powerful." And
it's definitely not. It's
you know,
definitely not, in my opinion. It's
yeah,
not.
and it's that idea that you sit in a room full of people, and the leader, as what was that bit we were talking about earlier with the leader messes it up in the commune? The loudest voice, the leader person, always
Oh yeah.
messes it up because everyone looks the loudest voice, and actually, that
Mm.
doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right voice to listen to.
There's a saying, those that know don't no, those that speak don't know, those that know don't speak.
Hmm.
And I speak a lot and I know a bit, but I know what that means. You know, it's the ones that are always ramming it down your throat.
Yeah,
That's what it means to
yeah.
me. It's the
You
ones that are always ramming it down your throat. Um,
you talk, and you listen. You don't shout.
yeah,
And I think that's the other really important bit. It's that communication, the understanding of other people. It's the listening.
yeah, absolutely. I just want to quickly go back to because it's relevant and I want people to know this because it's I've got evidence. I've got some data.
Hmm.
It's my data. And it's just my words. So, you know, you can't believe what I'm telling you, you know. Don't believe what I tell you. Um, go and find out for yourself. But it's an observation, right? So, you know, you were saying about do you think it comes with age, compassion, and
Hmm.
you know, this sort of self-awareness that we gain through, you know, living a bit
Hmm.
and fucking up a lot. And I work with, well, you know what I do, and I work with to some degree quite a lot, and there's a lot of them out there now. The young mavericks, I always call them that. These little fuckers. I, I say that in an endearing way.
Hmm.
I say to their parents, they're little
Mm.
fuckers, and they're like, I know. So these little rebels that have gone a little bit off piste, like I did, you know,
Yeah.
teen rebel angst, right?
Hmm.
And they're caught up in all sorts of problematic behavior, some addictions, whatever, blah blah blah. Um, and they've turned it around.
Mm.
They've turned it around. I've worked with people that are like, you know, as young as 15, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, right through the 20s, right? Into 30s. I've worked with people of all ages, but those adolescent mavericks come good.
Hmm.
I've got evidence.
Yeah.
I absolutely have seen the turnaround. Not because I've done it; they've done the work. They've put the work in, right? So don't matter how old you are, right? It's never too late. And if a young person can do it, and I always say this to these young mavericks, right? I failed to do what you've taken on, and I'm really, honestly, I've got so much admiration for them. I'm
Mm.
so inspired. I'm blown away by these dudes, man. I mean, there's some out there that are now like, 5, 6, approaching on 7 years into their journey. They've kicked drugs, they're off, they don't even drink, they've reintegrated back into, first and foremost, they went back to finish school or
Hmm.
study. Some of them went on to uni. Some of them are now helping other people. It's incredible, and they're doing great stuff. And they have immense passion. They have a lot of calmness. They're still a little
Mm.
bit, can be a little bit, because they're young, they're still learning. But they display a lot more calmness, and they have an immense amount of compassion and empathy for what they've been through. It's such a young part of their life.
Hmm.
They're in act two of their lives, and they're not even out of their 20s. And they've got all this stuff ahead of them. And there's a few of them out there. There's a lot of them out there, but and that gives me hope.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging. That's why I'm sharing that, because that's just the ones I've collaborated with. There's
Mm.
loads of them out there. So quite a younger community now of these kind of reborn, come again, they they just figured it out early. They were smart.
Yeah.
And I kind of shone a light on that and sort of helped them with that, encouraged them to say, look, you're smart, man. You're smart. Don't be a dick
Mm.
like me and wait until you're, in your 30s, because your pride and your ego, all of that shit is going to be so strong by that point. Like, and I'm getting to you right now, and you've got to yourself. You're there. You're showing up for yourself. You've not abandoned yourself, because not having compassion for yourself is self-abandonment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not having love for yourself is self-abandonment. And for me, and I'll talk for me, I felt abandoned in my life for various reasons. So, no coincidence that I'm going to continue to perpetuate that and self sabotage. So, I abandon myself over and over, and what greater way to do that than just hide from life
Mm.
and hide from just stepping up and facing it and going, right, okay, I've got to do a bit of work here. Got to do a bit of work, and I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to face my demons, and I'm going to overcome it, and I'm going to move into a better phase in my life, take the power back. So them young people have done that. They're doing it. It is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible. You don't have to wait until you're an old git to do it. You know.
Yeah. 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 That's really lovely. Um, I think that's a really nice note to end on. It's a hopeful note to end on. And yeah, it's been a winding conversation today.
Winding.
A
That's what.
winding.
Oh, I thought like whining.
No, 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 winding. I
What
don't
does
think
that
we've
mean?
wind. I just feel like it's travelled quite a way. It's gone in different places.
I felt like it was deep. I felt like, I got into a couple of, I always, as you know, jazz out and get into these like, monologues of, but that's my passion.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So we've learned that passion is endurance. We endure together, and yeah, I'm hoping that these conversations is about trying to build a community and trying to come together and have compassion for ourselves and others. And
mm,
you know, I think that's the forward thinking, the place we
yeah,
want to be.
absolutely. It always starts with us, man, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Just do something nice for yourself today. Look at yourself in the mirror and smile at yourself.
What are you grateful for today, Dave?
Um, this,
Yeah.
um, I'm grateful that everything that I've shared, I really feel.
Mm.
Everything anything that comes out of my mouth is not just me saying it for effect or as if I'm like, trying to preach or, to the choir, all that stuff. It's that is my appreciation, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm embodying this incredible thing that I've got, and I just want to translate that to other people to just smell it and feel it and get a sense that there's something there that they can access as well. It's for everyone. So that's what I'm grateful for, is that I feel what I'm shouting on about, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah, it
you?
does.
What are you grateful for?
What am I grateful for today? I'm always grateful for my kids. They always come to my the front of my head whenever anyone asks me that. But I'm also grateful for having this dialogue. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's helped. It's helped a lot actually. And yeah, I'll go and write the book. I'll go and write my narrative and take control, take the power back.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's for everyone. Okay, Mr. Rice.
All right, Mr. Noble. Thank you so much. You take care of yourself, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, with great compassion, I say goodbye.
Take care.
See you later, man.